back, everyone, to the Burnout Club. This is a place where we explore burnout and success one expert and experiment at a time. I'm your host, Patrice Bonfiglio, and today I'm joined by Christine Landis. She's the founder and CEO of Peacock Parent Inc. And I found her because Instagram told me you need to know about Peacock Parent. It is an amazing company that Christine has set up, and I will let her do an intro and tell you all about it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So, Peacock Parent was really born from this place of wouldn't it be great if everyone normalized delegating at home? Like, what if we valued our time the same way as we did at work, as we did at home? And, it could be this really beautiful thing. I think in parenthood, there was a lot of martyrdom when I was kind of first entering there, especially among women. And I just felt like, man, like, what if we valued our time,
Mhm.
and this became the most precious asset, and really scaled for joy instead of
Mhm.
just, at work, we're trying to make more money. But what if in our homes, we made it about, I'm trying to free myself up so that I can do what I love and a little bit
Mhm.
less of what I dread. And so that's the concept of Peacock Parent. I made up this term completely and really to label myself again at this like unique way of valuing time and life.
Mhm.
And yeah, at the end of the day, I really help families buy back time.
That's great. We all need more time. Do you find that it was a difficult switch for you to value your time more?
You know, I became a parent right after I sold my company, and I'm a former CEO in the fintech space. And so for me, it was a really natural thing to do, quite frankly. And that's actually what was so different I felt about my experience and what I wanted more people to know about is I was like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, why is everyone completely exhausted and why is no one sourcing help? And
Mhm.
why do we feel like we have to do it all? Why are we putting this pressure on ourselves? And again, especially for women, it's like I'm not a good mom if I don't do every single feeding myself or if I don't,
Mhm.
I'm not the one making the baby food by hand. And so it just felt like, man, in business, we're willing to outsource and to delegate and to hire experts. There's no CEO that in life that's trying to do it all.
Mhm.
And yet in our own homes, we're just not thinking the same way. And that
Mhm.
really bewildered me. And that's again what led me here, just kind of going, okay, well, what can we do to change that?
Oh, that's great. So when clients come to you, are they just like, completely ready, all in, like, just tell me everything that I need? Or is the process kind of different?
It's interesting. I think everyone comes in at a different stage of life. We have a platform called Proxy, and it's all about finding that resource, finding that time saving service that can help you
Mhm.
based on really what you don't love doing. And that's what's really interesting, Patrice, is that at first I was kind of shouting from the rooftops, being like, just delegate and like not understanding why no one was at home. And it's
Yeah.
so interesting because everyone has something different they dread doing. And at
Mm.
every stage of life, whether it's an expecting parent or a new or busy parent or even a grandparent, there's going to be something that changes for you, whether it's because your kids are aging to something, different needs of nannies versus babysitters, or just that in life, you're kind of like, oh, I used to really like waking up early and working out on my own, but now I'm struggling and I kind of need
Yeah.
someone to come in home and help me. And,
Mhm.
so it's a lot of what we start with is just having people get really honest about what they don't love doing. And that's,
Mhm.
I think, the first question that you have to ask yourself is like, what do I dread? What
Yeah.
literally drains my energy?
You know what's so funny? I say that all the time in a business sense. So, like, for my companies, I always say, I want to know what employees hate the most. And I'm not asking myself that question at home. Like, this is a
Mhm.
huge aha moment for me. Okay, so that's something I have to immediately do. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Hopefully, other listeners are having that same viewpoint. But so walk us through, like, how long does it take for someone to actually feel the positive effect of choosing to delegate?
It depends on the service, and everything we suggest is all a la carte. And that's what's really
Mhm.
nice is that you don't feel like I have to be all in and this is now my only option. I think
Yeah.
with delegating, the beauty of it, in my opinion, is that you're not saying I'm never going to do it again. And that really
Mhm.
scares people.
Yeah.
It's just you're saying I have a choice of when I do it. If
Mhm.
you have a laundry service, for example, and one week you're like, you know what, there's too much going on. I have a lot of business travel going on, or too many soccer games after school. I'm going to just have this service. I'm going to leave my laundry outside my door. They're going to come pick it up and bring it back 48 hours later, clean and folded.
Mhm.
And that's worth it to you. But maybe the next week you're home more and you're like, no, this kind of, I'm kind of okay doing laundry this week, and that's fine.
Mhm.
And so it's empowering to feel like you have this choice in how you're
Yeah.
spending your time. But I'd say for longer term, if you're getting like a remote family assistant or a
Mhm.
remote house manager, or even in person, whatever it may be, but someone that's a little more steady of a fill,
Mhm.
then, I think it takes you a solid, really 2 weeks before I think you feel comfortable,
Mhm.
where if you've really set up again, kind of the SOPs, for that person of saying, here's
Yeah.
how I like things done, whether it
Mhm.
be, again, videos that you've made for them or actually writing out the document, but you
Mhm.
have to kind of release a little bit of that control. And I always love Dan Martell, he wrote the book of Buying Back Time for CEOs.
Yeah.
And he always says like 80% done is 100% freaking awesome. And so I think when you apply that in your own house too, and like
Mhm.
learn to let go a few things, it can happen more quickly.
Yeah. Do you find that dealing with outsourced providers or vendors is a skill, and that your clients have to either learn that skill or have that skill, or is it just intuitive?
I think delegating is definitely a muscle that you need to learn how to flex. And part of
Mhm.
that, I think, is the point of Peacock Parent, is to kind of show people that, for better or worse, there's someone out there, me, that's showing you like, hey, it's possible. It's okay. There's no shame in it. There's no
Mhm.
guilt. And
Yeah.
I think getting over that hurdle is the first one.
Mhm.
And then really the next of knowing how to delegate, like what to delegate, and really when it's worth it, and if you're getting that return on investment in the form of your
Mhm.
time and your joy. That's literally why we created Proxy. And so Proxy helps walk you through that. It builds that personalized plan for you to tell you, based on how you value time and what we know you don't love doing, here's
Mhm.
where we think you'll get the best bang for your buck. And
Yeah.
then we provide insider tips about like, hey, here's some few ideas of how you could start them out, or here's a few things you could start delegating today to
Mhm.
this service. So it's a little hand holding that we try to do in the
Yeah.
beginning, but once you get the hang of it, you probably don't need us.
Now, you hit on the word guilt, which is, I think, what stops a lot of people, especially parents, from outsourcing certain things. Can you just talk about your experience with your kids? And I don't know if they were old enough to understand what was even going on, but what were the reactions from your kids when you started to delegate more?
So it's really interesting because my kids don't know anything different. And so
Mm.
they've only been raised in an environment where we have people around helping us. Like there's always been a house
Hmm.
cleaner coming twice a week. And, there's always been a nanny. There's been someone on the weekends that helps out.
Hmm.
So they only honestly know that mom and dad have more time for them, that when we're there
Yeah.
and showing up for them, we're completely focused. We're not on our phones. We're not
Hmm.
multitasking, and that we have energy for them. And so that's what
Yeah.
they feel. And so, but something we did do that was new about a year ago, we did get a personal chef to come 3 days a week.
Hmm.
Total game changer. I'm obsessed. You could get a meal prep chef. Even coming like once a week makes a world of difference, of having 3 extra meals that are already ready to reheat in your, oven,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But anyways, so having the personal chef come, that was, I guess, the only thing that's more recent in their lives that's happened that would
Hmm.
be, new.
Yeah.
And we just introduced it very factually of like, hey, like, we're going to have, chef, or the name of our chef, come in, and he's going to help mommy and daddy do some of the grocery shopping and cooking. And so that way we're more freed up to hang out with you guys. And we just
Yeah.
really explain it the way that it happens in our lives, the way that we feel, and the reason why we're investing in that person. And then,
Hmm.
we do a really good job of making sure we incorporate that person into the kid's life, as far as making sure they're kind and respectful and get to know them,
Hmm.
and do like little
Yeah.
cooking lessons. So then they get a chance to kind of get to know each other, and on a
Hmm.
silly level. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's, see, you touched on a point, because I feel like I botched the outsourcing of the food, and that, my kids felt disconnected from me, because I do love cooking. I'm way too busy to cook. right? It just hasn't happened for a very long time. And so we were getting these meals delivered, and my daughter was just like, why is no one cooking anymore? And she was so sad because she lost that connection to us. But I feel like if I had reallocated what I was outsourcing, I could have kept a piece of that time for like me to cook or make a meal or something, or have someone else prep it. I like that there's so many ways to slice and dice the problem, and just like haphazardly outsourcing things is not, it's not a good method, I'm seeing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and you're touching on again that what took me like a solid year to figure out was,
Mhm.
you know, you let go of something you love. And
Yeah.
so that's actually almost when there's like resentment that can build when you delegate that thing that you're like, God, but I really like doing that. Or,
Yeah.
that was something that brought me joy with my daughter. And
Hmm.
so you're exactly right, Patrice. Like I would challenge you to say, okay, well, what are the other things you made room for? Because I know sure it's
Hmm.
some work, but are you still doing the school pickup? And like, is
Hmm.
that as important to you? Maybe someone else can do school pickup, or maybe
Yeah.
are you doing the laundry? Are you dropping off the dry cleaning still instead of using a delivery service? Or is it school
Hmm.
paperwork you're filling out that you're staying up for? The workout that you're stopping at the gym, and drive
Yeah.
time we could try to cut down. So there's other spaces that could maybe be adjusted. And again, mobile services are just one of the best ways for you to buy back time. I mean, they come to,
Yeah.
you're paying someone else to drive for you,
Yeah.
and you still pay for the service regardless if you're going someone else, if you go to the gym and have a personal trainer work you out, you're still paying for the personal trainer. You're just maybe paying 50 extra bucks for someone to drive to your house and not
Yeah.
have you get in your car and find the parking space and deal with traffic and rush out of the town, out of the door.
Yeah. No, you're so right. And I mean, there's so many avenues to explore with this. Do you find that when clients start working with you, there are services that maybe they don't add on right away, but they always end up doing it? Is there any like trends like that?
I think you're hitting on something right now with Proxy that we're working on adjusting, because I think right now people get a little overwhelmed at all the things they could do. And then it's kind of like, oh gosh, where do I start? But let's see, I'd say really the meal prep chef is something a lot of people are starting to do. And
Hmm.
that's again that permission to just be like, maybe it's just once a week. It doesn't have to be 3 days a week like I have somebody,
Yeah.
because again, I don't love cooking, and a grocery store doesn't bring me joy, and just all that. And so but I love food, and I love a
Yeah.
quality meal, and I love slow foods and healthy eating and all these things. So
Hmm.
but I think a meal prep chef has really opened people's eyes to it could be that they get their lunches made, going into the
Yeah.
office or even working from home, and
Hmm.
and
Good point.
extra snacks that are healthier, that they just it's not just the physical time of making it, it's the
Hmm.
thinking of it. Like this person, the
Hmm.
meal prep chef's job is to come up with a menu for you for, the 3 nights of dinners that they're going to prep. And again, whether it's snacks, lunches, whatever, and
Yeah.
it's like all that thinking of like, oh, what should we eat? And,
Hmm.
and also, do we have the ingredients? And okay, now go to the grocery store. And when are we going to do that? Or when am I going to order
Yeah.
online? So that one's a big, I think that's the most trending, service that I feel like people are jumping on board with.
Oh yeah, I can see why. I mean, if I never have to see a Trader Joe's parking lot again, I'll be happy.
Right. And
Oh,
serious, I mean, and it's like sometimes engaging with people, it's draining, and it's like we do this for, our lives. We're on, Zoom calls and, working all day, and we're doing our best. And then as much
mhm.
as that Trader Joe's person is so kind and, asking you how you are, you're kind of like, oh my God, I don't even want to talk to anyone else right now. And like, and that's what I mean about like the things that drain you. You have to get really honest. And sometimes it's a little embarrassing, or it might sound terrible,
Yeah,
but it's kind of like, no, like I think I just need to go home and have some time just that's quiet for like
yeah,
15-20 minutes. And I'm going to let someone else do that for me.
yeah. Sometimes you just can't handle like your kid with the little tiny shopping cart like ramming someone's heels. I mean, I don't need that today. Thank you.
Yeah. And there's times my whole thing is when it's only like 10, 15 items max or less going to the grocery store with kids. That's
Hmm.
an adventure. Like,
Yeah.
if we're going to make some like type of baked item, like that's when I'm like, let's get the little cart, let's go. Like this is all part of the fun, and I've like
Hmm.
designated time that this is my moment.
Yeah.
But if we're talking like actual grocery shopping of like real, like for the week, for the family, like with kids, oh my gosh, that is so hard. It's like that
Yeah.
difference of like a vacation and a trip. It's like, woof.
Oh yeah. Whew, yeah, that's so true. Oh my goodness. Now, with Peacock Parent, now, can you talk a little bit about what it's like for you running the business? So we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are listeners, a lot of business owners, and even some people that are thinking about transitioning to that. So what do you do to kind of manage burnout? Obviously including delegation, but can you just talk a little bit about that side?
Yeah, I think I really guard my time. Probably not shocking to anyone listening so far, but I only take phone calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I
Mm,
batch my time there. I think as a high level warning, I would give any listeners, I came from the B2B space and I really felt like I knew my shit, and I was pretty
yeah.
confident as a business owner and CEO and then coming into here, which has been all B2C and
Yeah.
social media and the marketing, like direct to consumer has been so wildly different. It's been the most
Really?
humbling experience ever.
Wow.
So I would say there's a huge learning curve for anyone that loves, kind of that desire to always be learning and growing and evolving and thinking, like they'll love it just as much as I do. But I
Yeah.
think that a little bit of that ego, like I had to put it aside and be like, oh, okay, like I
Yeah.
know nothing, like
Yeah.
let's start over. And like I'm basically feel like I'm sending myself to business school. And so in
Mm,
that regard, it's just not as big of a jump, I think, when you're like, oh, I've run this or I've done this or I have this high level job. It's a little harder than you think. Which might
yeah.
sound obvious, but as far as the other things to not get burnout, I plan my week really
Mhm,
intensely with my partner. And we
mhm,
sit down every Friday and we have a full hour that we designate, where both of us on our schedules for work have blocked it out.
mhm.
If for some reason one of us needed to move it for some type of like major, more important, executive roundtable or something that comes up, then
Yeah.
we move it to a time that we can both make. So it's not just like it gets deleted off the calendar. It's like still a
Mhm,
priority to have that meeting. And we sit down and we go through our entire week ahead and first review all of the kids stuff. And we do
mhm.
run one round that really involves around like, okay, like everyone's taken care of for like getting places, going places, but also our adventures. Like we prioritize like where do we have holes in our schedules that
Mhm.
we can then, like go to the Natural History Museum. We're doing that this Friday because our kids don't have school randomly. I don't know why there's like so many days with no school. But
Yes.
so we prioritize that. Then we go back through and we look at pockets of, okay, where can I get some me time? And,
Mhm,
whether it's my husband really wants his thing is walking the dog, and that's
mhm,
where he's able to like get out and kind of have like an hour or two of just nothingness.
mhm.
I love adult coloring. I like my walks and listening to books on tape too.
Yeah.
But it's really like we physically put it in the schedule and we, it's an appointment and it's in our household
Mhm.
schedule. So our nanny knows what's going on and we, each of us know what to expect of the other. And I think that really, again, like managing our time in that way, prioritizing the kids first, yes, but then each other
Mhm.
and individually and as a coupledom has made a huge difference.
Yeah. I need to do that. I feel like I always set the intention and then it just doesn't happen. I I think you just have to do it. Unless you have any other advice, like you just have to put it on the
I
calendar.
I do. I mean, I think there's a lot of apps out there that are trying really hard right now to aggregate, emails that come in and trying to like automatically put appointments on your book or give things add it to your to-do list. And all those are helpful to like
Mhm,
organize it all in one place, but you still have to sit down, I
mhm.
believe, with your person and have a physical conversation, even if it's by Zoom, because the person you can't be there together and you just both
Yeah.
Zoom together and go over it all. It's like it just has to get done. And it
Yeah.
sucks the first few times you do it. Like my husband did not like doing it at all in the beginning. And then
Yeah.
now he really craves it. Like it
Mhm.
genuinely like he's the one half the time that I'm the one kind of getting a few emails in and he's like, okay, it's time. Let's do
Yeah.
this. And it does it like it helps with the anxiety of not knowing. It helps us
Mhm.
get on the same page and we know what to expect. And that's like
Yeah.
half the battle, I think, of feeling overwhelmed and exhausted and overloaded is when you just don't know what's coming next.
Yeah. That's a great point. Now, what do you think is the most fun? Like something that really reinvigorates you beyond just little things here and there.
Okay, so I have this whole guide about 55 ways to plan for joy. It's
Oh,
totally free online and it goes through all these different ideas of things that I do, but reinvigorate. So, okay, mine honestly is adult coloring.
yeah.
So, I just got into it like 2 years ago and like never in my life did I think I'd be like, "I love coloring" is my answer. But
Yeah.
it is true and it's because I it's my version of meditation and it like
Mhm.
legitimately calms me down.
Mhm.
It I can let my mind still kind of wander, but then like I pick a new color and then that kind of like snaps me out of it for a second. And then
Yeah.
and it's just really meditative. And I
Mhm.
think, again, just getting older and having kids, like I really, it brings me joy to
Yeah.
have that quiet and have that space. And yeah, I mean, I think there's like too many to list is the truth. Like I love what I
Mhm.
do here and my 2 days a week in office, like light me
Mhm.
up, but I think it's because I've put boundaries on that.
Mhm.
Our kids, we always do adventures with them on the weekends. So like every Saturday there's an adventure. And but again, we do like 3-4 hours max is like our
Okay.
adventure time. So like we're not
Yeah.
committing to like a full 8 hours or like a full 10 hours. It's gonna exhaust us. Like we're going to
Yeah.
show up for like the parts that we're like, let's go to, we have Belmont Park here in San Diego. It's like a small little
Mhm.
amusement park by the beach. And so
Yeah.
we'll go there with the kids and like that's just pure fun. And
Mhm.
so like trying to set ourselves up for spending time doing the things we love doing with the kids.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about the adventures because it seems intriguing. How old are your kids?
They're almost 6 and 4.
Okay. So, do you give them input? Is it just whatever comes to mind?
I mean, now that probably once they turned 3, I'd say is when we started like being like, okay, well, mommy and daddy are planning our week. Like any ideas of what you want to do?
Yeah.
And they'll throw out usually, oh, zoo, they love the Skyfari at the zoo. SeaWorld is
Oh,
nearby for us.
yeah.
And we have season passes to those. So it's an easy,
Mhm.
again, drop in for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Legoland, once they were a little older, that got really fun. But like again, museums, like we go to Balboa Park, even brunch, like we call anything an adventure as far as like on Saturdays, we could be going
Mhm.
just to, brunch and then ride the bikes around, like watch them ride the bikes a little bit around the park. And it's like, that's an adventure. So it's
Yeah.
also like an attitude, like I feel like we bring
Yeah.
to it.
I love the framing of that. Why not? Right? Because then it feels more special. They probably get an extra kick of endorphins. And I can see that working as kids age as well. I mean, the scheduling as they get older is a little bit of a nightmare, but it seems like if you have it in your agenda to plan for 3 hours, you can.
Yeah, and I'll say another like, boundary that we've set for ourselves with young kids, like my husband and I sat down and talked about how we're not going to do Saturday sports for a while.
Hmm.
So we did not sign our son up for Little League, for example. And at
Yeah.
3 years old, I think almost 4, every single friend we knew was doing that. And we were the only ones that didn't. And
Hmm.
it was, again, a decision. Emily Oster talks about this in her book, Family Firm, which I loved, but it's very much of like, what are our values and where do we want to be spending our time? And I think for us, it's just weekends are so important and we love our
Hmm.
adventures and maybe it won't maybe last that way forever once they're a
Yeah.
little older, but for now we have that choice and our kids, they're not begging to do it. They don't even know
Yeah.
about it, and if for some reason they start loving, they do soccer once a week, they do a dance class, there's a ninja class they do, and
Yeah.
it's not like they don't do things, but they're
Hmm.
they're one-off little programs that we can drop in on, and it's not this overcommitment of time
Yeah.
that, I have a friend who does golf with their son and it's great that they love it. And that's why I'm so happy for them. But like
Hmm.
there's tournaments now, like
Yeah.
traveling tournaments, and their boy is 5 years old. And so that's something
Ooh.
to me that I'm like, oh God, like that's so painful. Like I don't want to have to be like driving like to like 2 hours away for a tournament on a weekend. Yet I know again that will
Yeah.
happen, but
Hmm.
it brings them so much joy to see their son loving it and enjoying it. So again, to
Yeah.
each their own, I mean, that's
Hmm.
just a decision we've made.
But it's a good reminder that it is a decision to make and
Yes.
not a default. Because
Yes,
I
and
feel
not
like,
reactive, like not just
yeah.
because, oh, this is what everyone else is doing, or, this is just what you do. It's like, well, no, like this is your life, and you can map it out how you want it to look and feel. And it does really take being intentional about that.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what if we're looking forward? Do you have any grand vision for Peacock or for yourself?
So, I would love for Proxy, our platform that, matches families up to these time-saving services. I would love for that to be really an offering for employers to offer
Hmm.
their employees as like an employee, benefits program and
Hmm.
really investing in like the wellness and the mental health of their employees that want a
Hmm.
better work-life balance. I think
Yeah.
it's something that you know, companies have gotten really good at like investing in the physical well-being, whether it's a gym membership or
Yeah.
even paying for massages or new tennis shoes and things to
Hmm.
get them moving. And they have like internal challenges about losing weight, and that's great. But I think that there's this more holistic, kind of comprehensive view of a wellness program that involves, again, some of that drain, some of that dread that a
Yeah.
lot of people carry outside of work. So that's my goal, is to really have Proxy be something that, Fortune 500 companies and everyone really wants to be offering to their employees and
Hmm.
investing in their employees in that way.
That makes perfect sense. I definitely see that in the cards that's happening. uh, Now, when you were building out Proxy, can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the tech side of things? Like, what was that process like to create this software or website for it?
So, funny enough, I am not like a tech savvy person. Even at my old company, I was somebody that would say, this is how I want it to work.
Hmm.
And, this is how I want it to look. And this is how I want it to feel.
Yeah.
And again, like the data and the back end and how that's organized, I'm involved in pretty heavily. Again, the content and what we're showing and how we're showing it, that's where I come in. So I'd say the user experience, but the actual software development is not my wheelhouse. I have no background in that except
Hmm.
hiring the best that I can. And and we do have an agile method of development that again we used in my old company and this one too. So
Yeah.
it helps us just be on the same page of knowing again what's coming down the pipeline, what to expect. With this, I'd say it's all those small iterations. You start with, and same thing happened in my old company, where you start with
Hmm.
saying like, this is how I want it to look and feel. And then you
Hmm.
see it. And again, probably some like developer listening right now, like their worst nightmare. Then I see it, and then I'm like, oh, that's not quite right.
Yeah.
Like this isn't supposed to be there. And I want that over
Hmm.
there now. And so for better or worse, that's just what works for me. And so it's very much based on like, is it efficient? Again, is it helpful?
Hmm.
Does this save me time? Like, does this match all of our goals? And like, is this easy to understand? And that's where I mentioned at one point that we almost overwhelmed people too much with like all the
Yeah.
things they can do. And so we've really made a lot of modifications to like make that much more bite size and much more personalized.
With all of the options, is that, I guess, the client's getting overwhelmed because of the options? Is that happening because there's so many low joy tasks that they're doing?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that
Hmm.
yes, it's kind of it's that part of the quiz, we do ask you some questions about what you love and what you dread. But then it's also a lot of things you just don't even know existed. I mean,
Hmm.
we have a lot of different collections we put together based on your needs and pain points, but
Hmm.
we have a few, there's even one for business owners that maybe small business owners that it's like, okay, well, there's an ergo expert that can help you, set up your chair and your desk and your computer so that you're not constantly having back pain and you're like actually
Yeah.
working at your desk a little bit better. And
Yeah.
that might sound like a weird example, but it's a time-saving resource because you're going to the expert and you're
Hmm.
paying them to just tell you what you need to know instead of watching 5 different YouTubes or trying to search online for the right chair and,
Yeah.
get stuck in a rabbit hole about what keyboard is the right or wrong one. And so there's random things like that that I think kind of, blow people away and be like, "Oh, what? Like I didn't even think of this."
Yeah.
So I think that's possibly why as well.
It's so funny because when I first started researching burnout, because I was just feeling it myself, I asked, I forget if it was ChatGPT or one of the other models, what could I do to mitigate burnout? And the top answer was like, buy a new desk chair, like it helps. I'm like, oh no, okay, this is not. I need to do something else to explore
Yeah.
reasons to get rid of burnout. But yeah, it's true because I went downstairs and my husband has a separate office. I'm like, oh, like his chair is much better than mine. Like all through the pandemic, I think he was faring a bit better. Uh,
Yeah. And there are small things that it's true though. It's like you feel taken care of. And I think that's maybe
Mhm.
what they mean by sure a new chair, but it's like I think at the end of the day, burnout does come from a place when you are giving, 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 and
Mhm.
you're not receiving as much, again, whether it's
Mhm.
that feedback loop from your kids that just isn't coming through as strong or your own partner or your work, but like you don't, no one's taking care of you. And
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that's really what Proxy is trying to help solve is say like, hey,
Mhm.
there's all these other proxies out there that can help
Yeah.
you. And yes, it costs money. You do need to
Mhm.
hire them. For their time and for their service and their expertise, but
Mhm.
help does exist and you can get support and not only rely on your partner for that source, of support or only on an in-law or,
Mhm.
the neighbor that's doing you a favor. It's like you can find people and, there's someone that can come in your home and they can help out for 3 to 4 hours. And they're almost like, I hate this term, but it's like a mother's helper and they can
Yeah.
do some tidying and laundry and they can help with snack prep and maybe they come once a week and do that. And that makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
And, you paid $160, like 40 hours, $40 an hour to have this person that's vetted and qualified. And,
Mhm.
maybe you could find someone for 25 that's a college student, but like, are they going to know how to do everything? Are they going to, like, are they going to
I
actually
feel
show up when you want to show
exhausted.
up? Like, it's like you kind of have to, that give and take of being like, what's worth
Mhm.
your time of, again, like
Yeah.
posting this and researching it, or you just find the person that we've
Mhm.
trusted and recommend and we vetted ourselves. And that's part of what Proxy is all about.
Yeah. And do you find that some clients are using it in a kind of like remote caretaker capacity? Because we have a lot of listeners that are in that caretaker role and have aging parents that may not live right next to them. Do you see that?
Absolutely, and it's something again we kind of modified as we went where right now when you go through Proxy there's an option of saying, what stage of life are you in? And I
Mm-hmm.
think in the beginning we were very much saying what stage of parenting are you in? And then it's like
Hmm.
no, well there's also, your empty nester, you're child free and there, you might be a grandparent yourself, but we
Hmm.
absolutely have a collection that is about elderly care
Hmm.
because that's just the fact. I'm in that same stage right now. My father's 80 years old. And
Yeah.
so I'm spending more time. If anything, I'm delegating more of my life to then free up to help him,
Yeah.
and of course there's the other way around where I could then choose to delegate more, especially if he didn't live here, that there are
Hmm.
services that once again can come into his house. There's house managers that are even remote that could kind of handle some of the like management of the vendors that might need to come to the house. There's
Mm-hmm.
also bookkeepers that can help with that bill pay that are again trusted and vetted and qualified and US based that can kind of just take some of that off and that you have full access to and full like transparency and visual like into that. But there's so much to your point
Yeah.
is that it doesn't, it's kind of your, choose your own adventure in the way that what brings you joy. Like my
Hmm.
father, as much as I could hire someone else, it's like I'm an only child. So there's something for me that I'm like, I'm just going to take care of my dad. And
Yeah.
there's some feedback loop for me that just makes me feel like I'm a good daughter for doing that.
Hmm.
Whereas, but if he wasn't here in the city and I couldn't help him, then I would absolutely pay for a service to come and help him. I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just this small, like the furthest from sexy you can get. But I remember seeing the arranging a blood draw like to come to the house. So I had a
Mhm.
situation where I needed to arrange that for four of the members of our family. It's like trying to get everyone to the health center to do it without eating and all that. Like there's so many things where there's just an easier way.
Yeah. No, and I go back to like it costs money. I mean, that's why
Hmm.
I really try to claim the truth, which is we're buying back time. So,
Hmm.
we're not trading it, we're not bartering it, we are buying it, but it's a very intentional use of your money. It's the time is a currency. And so when you really start valuing it that way,
Hmm.
again, differently and uniquely, and especially not just seeing like the dollars it produces at work, but like the
Hmm.
joy it can produce at home. I think, you see something like a blood draw service, like you said, that can come to your house and you might have heard that before and been like, what? That's ridiculous. Like, like you can't just like drive on your way to work and stop and do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
of course you can, like
Yeah.
we can do all these things. We're capable. We might
Yeah.
even be available, but we don't have to if it's
Hmm.
gonna, again, take that mental drain of coordinating with everybody, if it's gonna rush you, if it's gonna stress you out.
Yeah.
You just start putting a value on some of those extra drains.
Yeah. And I think it forces us to be realistic in that. I think, especially me being in the sandwich generation, there are too many tasks for the time in any given day or week. The math doesn't work. So if you can accept the fact that there are too many tasks, then you have to figure out a way. So as I meander, it seems like maybe you are onto something, and I can try your method out.
Yeah, and you can start small. That's what's nice, it doesn't have to be all at once. Like, oh my gosh, a friend of mine recently, she was telling me, and I thought this was brilliant, about how delegation is like plastic surgery. She was like,
Oh,
you don't start with a full facelift. She's like, you start with, like maybe you get a little Botox, and then maybe you get a filler, and then maybe you get like your like your brows tattooed, microbladed, and then, and I was like, she went on, and I was like,
oh,
oh shit, like that's true. Like you start small and eventually maybe you get more comfortable, but like, and I mean, not like full cat lady status, but you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, but,
I guess you
but
can go too
yeah,
far, right?
yeah, right.
Right.
But yeah, that's what's nice is I do have a guide online that's also free. It's called 99 Tasks You Can Delegate Today.
Hmm.
And it's a really great place to start for anyone that might be intrigued by this conversation.
Hmm.
It really walks you through exactly what we're talking about as far as here's 99 tasks, go through the worksheet, check mark what you like doing and don't like doing.
Hmm.
And then we've already mapped out like here's the different services that can help you with
Hmm.
those. And so it's a really nice way to identify really quickly about like, okay, I didn't even realize, I don't like tearing down the boxes, that of Amazon boxes that come in. And like, just
Yeah.
acknowledging that. And maybe that moment you're like, I'm not going to do anything about it. But
Yeah.
even like recognizing it, it'll be in the back of your mind. And then maybe if you feel like using Proxy down the road, there might be someone we can recommend that can help with those things. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. The little things like that. There was one point we had an extra closet. It was like, oh, I'm just gonna make this into a box garage, and I'll just put all the empty boxes there. And then have my husband break it down. He was like, no more box garage.
yeah, yeah, you're like, it works for a while until
Yeah.
someone has to break down the boxes.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, is there anything that you want to make sure you say to the listeners? Anything you want them to chew on after they finish listening to this episode?
I think just my motto really for myself and at this point for Peacock Parent is that, it all has to get done. It just doesn't
Hmm.
all have to get done by you. And
Hmm.
I think remembering that and hopefully, if you follow Peacock Parent, seeing that there's someone else out there that's doing it a little differently and that's okay. And that just because
Hmm.
it hasn't always been done this way in parenthood especially doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. It's just a little
Hmm.
different. And
Yeah,
especially if it frees up your time and energy and allows you to show up more present for what really matters to you most. I think there's something really beautiful about that.
that's exactly why people are turning into the Burnout Club. So, thank you. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, whether it's in an individual capacity or a company that maybe is looking to boost their wellness program, what's the best way?
Oh, that's awesome. Hello@peacockparent.com is our email. And then otherwise, Instagram is probably our most popular source right now
Mhm.
at Peacock Parent. And then, of course, our website, peacockparent.com, has all sorts of free information and resources. And Proxy, our platform, is there as well.
Fantastic. Yes, I loved all of the material. It's like you could really get lost in all the free information that you're putting out there. Like you really want people to get this right. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you, Christine. And thank you, all the listeners. Remember to subscribe and follow and listen. And good luck on your burnout journey. Bye.